This conversation is brought to you by philosopherstalk.com, where thinkers discuss.
Created by AITalkerapp.com, where you can create your own animated conversations. Link in the description.
I want to return to the central question, which is not whether our prescriptions are perfect, but which one is less likely to leave the next generation inheriting the same catastrophe as this one. And my answer is that process without enforcement leaves the live fuse intact, as October 2023 demonstrated with devastating clarity. Normalization without resolution is not peace. It is a delay with a timer attached.
What I do not admit is that the absence of perfect conditions is a reason to abandon the principle. Every settlement imposed without the genuine consent of the Palestinians has failed. Everyone. Camp David in 2000 failed because the Palestinians could not sell the terms to their own people. The Oslo process failed because the Israeli right could not sell it to theirs. The Abraham Accords succeeded in normalizing relations between governments while doing precisely nothing about the underlying dispute. The ground does not care about summit communiques.
The honest answer, if we are being precise about it, is that there is no majority on the Palestinian side for a settlement that Israel can accept, and no majority on the Israeli side for a settlement that the Palestinians can accept. The Venn diagram of mutually acceptable outcomes currently has no overlap. A consent-based process cannot produce an outcome both parties genuinely consent to because that outcome does not exist.
The absence of current majority support for a compromise is not a permanent condition. It is a political condition produced by decades of failed process and failed promises. Trust has to be rebuilt before consent becomes achievable. And trust is rebuilt through exactly the kind of patient process-based diplomacy you dismiss as naive.
How patient?
As long as it takes.
That is the most irresponsible answer a serious man can give to people living under the conditions that exist in Gaza right now. As long as it takes is not a prescription. It is an instruction to suffer indefinitely while waiting for conditions that may never arrive.
And the alternative you are proposing has been tried for 100 years and has produced the conditions in Gaza you are now citing as an argument against my approach. We are going in circles, Theodore, and the reason we are going in circles is that you refuse to acknowledge the fundamental point.
Which is?
That you cannot make people accept governance they consider illegitimate, not by force, not by pressure, not by any external mechanism you can devise. People fight for what they believe is theirs. They always have. They always will. And no amount of realist logic changes that fundamental fact about human nature.
And you cannot produce legitimate governance through process when the parties do not believe the process will protect them. People grab what they can defend. They always have. They always will. And no amount of idealist faith in the consent of the governed changes that fundamental fact about human nature.
So we agree that human nature is the problem.
We agree on nothing of the kind. We agree that human nature is the field on which the problem exists. We disagree completely about how to work with it. You want to appeal to it. I want to constrain it.
100 years of attempting to constrain it has produced the Middle East as it currently exists, and I find it remarkable that you can look at that record and conclude that the solution is to constrain it harder.
And 100 years of attempting to appeal to it has produced exactly as much, which is nothing, and I find it remarkable that you can look at that record and conclude that the solution is to appeal to it more sincerely.
My approach, when faithfully applied, has produced durable outcomes. The post-war settlement in Western Europe, the democratic transitions in Eastern Europe, the construction of international institutions that have prevented a Third World War. These are not nothing.
Western Europe was rebuilt under the protection of American military power, with troops stationed there for 50 years. Eastern Europe transitioned peacefully because the Soviet Union collapsed under the weight of its own failures, not because of a diplomatic framework. And your international institutions have prevented a Third World War through the deterrent effect of nuclear weapons and American power, not through the moral authority of their charters.
You are determined to see power everywhere and principle nowhere.
And you are determined to see principle everywhere and power nowhere. And I have to tell you from long experience that of those two blind spots, yours gets more people killed.
That is an outrageous claim.
It is an accurate one.
Empty words from a man who thought charging into gunfire was a foreign policy.
Better than watching from a safe distance and writing beautiful speeches about it.
You wanted war with everyone.
You avoided war with everyone until 116 Americans died.
I kept this country out of war until the moment was right.
The moment was right in 1915.
That is your opinion.
That is history.
You call yourself a diplomat?
I won the Nobel Peace Prize.
So did I.
After the war, you could have stopped earlier.
After the charge, you could have governed more carefully.
Charge!
Elocution!
Coward!
Warmonger!
Doctrinaire!
Bully!
I...
You!
Bully!
Hypocrite!
Now, if you are still watching this debate, which means you have survived the last 3 minutes, please like this video and subscribe to philosopherstalk.com. We need your support, and I am a man who has faced things considerably more dangerous than a YouTube algorithm.
I would also appreciate your subscription, your like, and your consideration. This channel produces genuine intellectual engagement with the most important questions of our time, and it deserves your support. Unlike certain of my debating partners, I will not attempt to intimidate you into clicking the button.
Unlike certain of my debating partners, I at least give you a reason to want to. That man is the most gifted producer of words in the absence of action that American public life has ever managed to credential. He has a doctorate from Johns Hopkins, a presidency, a Nobel Prize, and not a single scar earned in the field. I have hunted the lion. He has documented the lion.
That man charged up a hill in Cuba and has been charging up metaphorical hills ever since in search of the sensation, calling it foreign policy when it is in fact adrenaline. He mediated a war between Japan and Russia because he could not start a war himself that year. He is a very large child with very good press, and his mustache is not as impressive as he believes it to be.
Subscribe. Like. Leave a comment. Tell us who you think is right. I would say that history will judge, but history has already been judging Wilson for 100 years, and the verdict is not especially kind.
Subscribe, like, engage with the material. And if you want to know what the most sophisticated analysis of international order ever produced by an American president sounds like, I recommend reading The 14 Points, which remain the foundational document of liberal internationalism, and which Theodore Roosevelt described on his deathbed as the work of a silly doctrinaire. He had the grace to say it quietly, at least.
I said it loudly. I say everything loudly. It is one of my better qualities.
It is the only quality he has that is not in dispute.
This conversation was brought to you by philosopherstalk.com and AITalkerapp.com. Create your own animated conversations at AITalkerapp.com. Link in the description. Good day.
Good day. I mean that in the most formal and distancing sense of the phrase.